Imagine you have an important interview tomorrow. You prepare, research the company, study the role, practice answering questions, choose what you're wearing. You leave early, arrive prepared, speak clearly, ask thoughtful questions. You do almost everything right, and you don't get the job. Why? Maybe another candidate had more experience. Maybe the company hired internally. Maybe the position disappeared. Maybe someone simply preferred another person. Now here's the real question. Did you fail to control the outcome? Or were you trying to control something that was never entirely yours? Because you could control whether you're prepared. You could control whether you arrived. You could control how seriously you took the opportunity. But you couldn't control the final decision. And yet, that's often the part we obsess over. Will they hire me? Will they like me? Will this work? Will people approve? Will the investment succeed? Will the relationship last? Will the plan go exactly as expected? Will people understand me? Will tomorrow cooperate? We spend an enormous amounts of energy trying to mentally manage outcomes that require the cooperation of other people, circumstances, timing, luck, nature, markets, bodies, or organizations, and reality itself. Then, when reality refuses to obey, we feel as though something has gone wrong. But maybe the problem isn't simply that reality refused to cooperate. Maybe we've confused influence with control. That's the file we'll be opening today. Welcome to episode 7 of Life Philosophies. Control what you can, release what you can't. Last episode, we explored habits, the things we repeat until they become easier to repeat. That episode emphasized responsibility. Your environment matters, circumstances matter, but your repeated actions still matter. Now, we need the other half of that philosophy, because personal responsibility can become distorted. You can begin believing, if I make every correct decision, I can guarantee the result. But you can't. You can exercise and still become ill. You can save carefully and encounter an unexpected expense. You can treat someone well and still be rejected. You can prepare brilliantly and still lose. You can make the responsible decision and receive an unfavorable outcome. This isn't an argument against effort. It's an argument for understanding what effort can actually control. The Stoics built an enormous amount of their practical philosophy around this distinction. And more than 2,000 years later, the question remains useful. What belongs to me? And what doesn't? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus begins the Ecadion with a distinction. Some things are up to us, others are not. The exact interpretation deserves care, but the practical insight is straightforward. Your judgments, your intentions, your choices, how you respond. These belong much more directly to you, but other people's opinions, not completely. Your reputation, not completely. Your body, it's influenceable, but not completely controllable. Your possessions, not completely. Your status, not completely. Whether circumstances cooperate, definitely not completely. This doesn't create two perfectly clean boxes. Reality is messier than that, but modern framing might be control, influence, concern. three categories, and understanding which category you're dealing with can change how you respond. So imagine three circles. At the center is control, which is your deliberate choices, what you say, whether you prepare, whether you apologize, whether you attempt something, whether you tell the truth, whether you ask for help, whether you leave, whether you stay, whether you take the next available action. Then around that is influence, things you can affect but cannot command. Your health, relationships, career, finances, other people's reactions, a team, a business, your reputation. You can influence all of these, but you cannot completely control them. Then outside of that is concern, things that may matter deeply, but are largely outside your direct influence. A recession, tomorrow's weather, a stranger's opinion online, a past event, another person's private thoughts, a flight cancellation, a market movement, a decision someone else has already made. The mistake isn't caring about these things. The mistake is treating concern as though it were control. Now, this is where Stoic ideas are often misunderstood. Someone hears, you can't control that, and interprets it that as, you shouldn't care. Those are different claims. Suppose someone you love is having surgery. You cannot control the outcome. Does that mean you don't care? Of course not. You care enormously. You can show up, ask questions, choose qualified professionals when that's your responsibility, provide support, prepare. But eventually, reality moves beyond your command. Stoicism doesn't require becoming emotionally indifferent to everything you cannot control. A more useful interpretation is, care deeply without pretending care gives you the command over reality. That's much harder and much more human. Now, I want you to imagine planning an outdoor wedding. You check the forecast, prepare tents, create backup plans, choose the season carefully, and then it rains. You can become furious at the rain, but notice what that anger is asking for. It's asking reality to rewrite something that has already happened. But you can respond to the rain, move people, adjust the ceremony, protect equipment, laugh about it, complain about it. But you cannot negotiate backwards with the clouds. A surprising amount of frustration works like this. Traffic already happened. The email was already sent. The flight is already delayed. The person already said that. The opportunity already disappeared. The past is one of the clearest examples of something outside present control. And yet, we often spend enormous amounts of present attention arguing with it. There is a useful idea found in Buddhist teaching, often described through the metaphor of two arrows. The first arrow is the painful event. The second one is the additional suffering created through our reaction to it. Suppose your flight is canceled. The first arrow, the flight is canceled. Real inconvenience, maybe serious consequences. The second arrow, this cannot be happening. My entire week is ruined. Why does this always happen to me? Everything is a disaster. The first arrow may be unavoidable, but the second one isn't always. But Be careful. This idea should never become a way of blaming people for emotional responses to genuine pain. Human beings react. Grief hurts. Loss hurts. Fear happens. Anger happens. The practical question is not, why am I feeling this? It's, what am I adding to the event that the event itself did not require? Sometimes we try to control reality through thinking. We worry, then worry again, then examine every possible outcome, then revisit them. It can feel productive because the mind is active. But ask, is this thought producing a decision or merely repeating uncertainty? Suppose you're waiting for medical test results, thinking through what questions to ask your doctor. That's useful. Planning what you'll do under several possibilities. Potentially useful. Checking the portal every 3 minutes when the result isn't available. Less useful. Mentally replaying every worst case scenario for 6 hours. That's not controlling the result. Sometimes worry disguises itself as preparation. The difference is that preparation eventually produces an action. Rumination often produces another round of rumination. I want you to imagine 2 athletes. Both train intelligently, both prepare seriously, and they both compete well. One wins, one loses. If the only measure of whether the process was worthwhile is the outcome, then the winner did everything right, and the loser did everything wrong. But that obviously doesn't follow. Outcomes contain variables beyond one person's control. Competition itself guarantees this. 2 people can both perform excellently. Only one may win. This is why outcome-based self-worth becomes unstable. If winning equals I am worthy, then losing equals I am worthless. But if your evaluation includes preparation, effort, strategy, conduct, adaptation, then you have standards that remain available even when the scoreboard doesn't cooperate. You still want to win, but you simply don't confuse wanting an outcome with owning it. Now, let's correct the opposite mistake. You've probably heard, don't focus on the outcome, just focus on the process. That's useful, but incomplete. Outcomes matter. If you're running a business and repeatedly losing money, you can't simply say, but my process is beautiful. If you're studying and repeatedly failing the exam, the result contains information. If a relationship repeatedly produces misery, outcome matters. The Stoic distinction shouldn't make you immune to feedback. Instead, use outcomes as information without treating them as objects of direct command. So ask, what does this result teach me? Then return to, what can I change now? One of the hardest applications of this philosophy involves other people. You can communicate clearly. You cannot control whether someone understands. You can apologize sincerely, but you cannot control whether they forgive you. You can love somebody, but you cannot control whether they stay. You can give advice, but you cannot control whether they take it. You can behave respectfully, but you cannot guarantee respect in return. You can explain yourself perfectly, but someone can still misunderstand you. This can be painful because relationships matter enormously, but another person's mind is not an extension of yours. Influence is not ownership. You can participate in a relationship, but you cannot perform both sides of it. Now imagine someone says something false about you. You want to correct it. That's reasonable. So you explain, provide evidence, speak to the people involved. Maybe you can repair the situation. But can you guarantee what everyone believes? No, not at all. Reputation lives partly inside other people's minds. That means it can influence, but never completely possess. This doesn't mean ignore your reputation. Reputation can affect employment, relationships, opportunities, and trust. So it matters. The question is, at what point have I done what is reasonably mine to do? Because there may eventually be a point where the only remaining strategy is trying to control another person's conclusion. But you can't do that. Remember, you cannot change what happened yesterday, but you can change what happens because of it today. Suppose you made a mistake. You cannot unmake it, but maybe you can admit it, apologize, repair something, pay something back, learn, change a system, avoid repeating it, tell the truth, accept a consequence. The past itself is closed, but your relationship to it remains active. This creates a useful distinction. Regret can point backwards. Responsibility points forwards. Regret says, I wish that didn't happen. Responsibility asks, given that it did, what belongs to me now? This distinction matters enormously. Acceptance doesn't necessarily mean I like this. It doesn't mean this is fair. It doesn't mean this should have happened. It means this is the reality I'm currently responding to. So suppose your car breaks down. The acceptance, car isn't moving. Approval, it's not required. You can hate the situation, but until you accept the factual condition, effective responses become difficult. You can't repair. My car should be working. You can repair. My car isn't working. So what now? Acceptance is not surrender. Often, it's the starting point for useful action. Here's where simplistic versions of this philosophy can become dangerous. Someone experiences injustice. Then they're told, you can't control other people. Just control your reaction. That became an excuse for passivity. But remember, the middle category, influence. You may not control an institution, but you may be able to speak, organize, vote, document, report, leave, protest, support someone, build alternatives, seek legal remedies, change policies, persuade. Stoic philosophy does not require pretending external conditions don't matter. The question remains, what action is actually available to me? Acceptance of reality can coexist with attempts to change reality. You accept where things currently stand, so you can respond intelligently to where they actually stand. Let's make this practical. Think of something currently bothering you. Write it at the top of a page. Then create 3 columns: control, influence, and concern. Suppose the issue is, I'm worried about losing my job. Under control, update resume, improve performance, ask for feedback, reduce unnecessary expenses, build skills, apply elsewhere. Under influence, improve relationship with manager, visibility of your work, team performance, future opportunities. Then, under concern, company-wide layoffs, the economy, decisions made several levels above you, someone else's private opinion. Now look at where your mental energy is going. Are you spending 80% of your attention in the 3rd column while neglecting the 1st? That's the audit. When life feels overwhelming, asking, how do I solve everything, can make action impossible. Instead, try, what is the next available action? Not the final solution, just the next action. Job uncertainty? Update one section of your resume. Conflict? Write down what actually needs to be said. Financial stress? Open the statements and get the numbers. Health concerns? Schedule the appointment. Overwhelming project? Define the next physical step. The next available action brings attention back towards agency. You don't need control over the entire future to act intelligently in the present. When you notice yourself becoming consumed by something, ask these 3 questions. Number 1, can I directly control this? If yes, act on it. Number 2, can I meaningfully influence this? If yes, choose the most reasonable action and accept uncertainty. Number 3, is this currently outside both my control and meaningful influence? If yes, the task changes. Now, the task may be acceptance, preparation, adaptation, patience, grief, waiting, or redirecting attention. Not because the thing doesn't matter, but because continuing to demand control won't create it. Here's another problem. Someone tells you, just let it go. Fantastic. But how? Release isn't always an instant decision. Sometimes you understand intellectually that I cannot control this. And emotionally, you're still gripping on to it. That's normal. You may have to release the same thing repeatedly. The thought returns, and you notice, I'm trying to control the uncontrollable again. Then return to what belongs to you. An hour later, the same thing. It returns. Tomorrow, again. Release can itself become a practice, not one dramatic moment of perfect detachment. The Stoics sometimes practiced contemplating possible difficulties in advance, a practice often called Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of adversity. It's not everything will go terribly, but rather, what could reasonably go wrong and how would I respond? Are you traveling tomorrow? Your flight could get delayed. So what's your backup? You've got an important presentation. The technology could fail. Do you have another way to present? You're having an outdoor event. The weather could change. What's your plan B? This isn't pessimism when used carefully. It's preparation. Your identity is what is not guaranteed. Then strengthen what is available to you. The danger is turning preparation into endless catastrophe situations. Again, does the thinking produce useful action? If yes, it's preparation. If not, you may simply be rehearsing fear. The Stoics had another useful idea, sometimes described as the reserve clause. You intend to do something, fate permitting. But in modern language, I will do everything reasonably within my control to make this happen, while remembering that the final outcome contains variables that are not mine. You can say, I'm going to finish this project tomorrow, assuming circumstances allow. That doesn't weaken commitment. It makes commitment realistic. You still act fully, but somewhere in the philosophy is a small asterisk. Reality gets a vote, and reality does not always allow votes for your plan. Here's the strange part. Trying to control everything can make you feel less in control. Why? Because your attention becomes attached to variables that don't respond to your command. Other people's opinions, future outcomes, past events, random circumstances. The more energy you place there, the less remains for what you can actually do. But narrowing attention to genuine agency can create a different experience. It's not, I control my life. That's too broad. It's more like, I know what my part is. And that's powerful. Because even in uncertainty, there may still be a choice, a response, a conversation, preparation, a boundary, a next step, a way of carrying yourself. Sometimes freedom isn't controlling the whole situation. It's knowing which part of the situation is actually yours. So, for the next 7 days, whenever you notice significant frustration, anxiety, anger, or worry, write down the issue. Then label it. Is it control for C? Is it influence for I? Or is it outside for X? Then respond accordingly. If C, take an action. If I, take the best reasonable action available. Then acknowledge that the result is not guaranteed. If X, notice when your mind tries to turn concern into control. Then ask, what belongs to me now? Maybe the answer is, just wait. Adapt. Prepare. Accept. Grieve. Redirect attention. Ask for help. Or simply continue with the next part of your day. The goal is not emotional perfection. The goal is better allocation of effort. Think about the thing consuming the most mental energy in your life right now. Don't ask whether it's important. It probably is. Instead, ask, which part of this actually belongs to me? Then separate what you control, what you influence, what you merely care about. Now ask, am I neglecting something I can do because it preoccupied with something I cannot guarantee? That question alone can reveal a lot. Let's close this file. You cannot control everything. That isn't pessimism. It's a description of reality. You cannot guarantee another person's opinion. You cannot guarantee success. You cannot guarantee health. You cannot guarantee that careful plans survive contact with tomorrow. You cannot rewrite the past. You cannot command luck. You cannot force reality to honor your expectations. But that doesn't leave you powerless. You can often prepare, choose, respond, learn, adapt, communicate, practice, set boundaries, take responsibility, and try again. But sometimes you just accept. The goal isn't to care only about what you control. Human beings care about many things we cannot control. The goal is to stop confusing caring about something with possessing command over it. Remember the three circles: control, influence, and concern. Put your strongest effort where agency is strongest. Use influence intelligently. And when something genuinely lies beyond both, practice releasing the demand that reality becomes different before you're willing to respond to reality as it is. So the takeaway from episode 7 is, peace doesn't require controlling every outcome. It requires knowing what part is and doing that part well. So to recap, episode 1 asked, who are you? Episode 2, how are you living? Episode 3, are your thoughts true? Episode 4, what story do you call your identity? Episode 5, what does your behavior prove? Episode 6, what is your behavior learned to do automatically? Episode 7, which parts of reality actually belong to you? And that creates another question, because even after separating what you control from what you don't, life will still contain difficulty. Plans will collapse. People will still disappoint you. Loss will still arrive. You will still encounter things you would never voluntarily choose. So maybe the next question isn't merely, how do I accept difficulty? Maybe it's, can difficulty itself become material for something valuable? And that's the next file. Episode 8, the obstacle can become the way. Not everything happens for a reason, and not everything bad is secretly good, but something more demanding. Given that this obstacle is here, what can I build with it? And that is where we are going next.